I realized how certain things that I did in 2023 really helped me end the year in a really positive way. And I also realized that when we start doing one thing, it tends to like compound and go into its own flow, either for the positive or the negative. So in today's video, as we go into the new year, I want to share 3 key things that I've learned in 2023 that I also plan on bringing into 2024. The first one is no longer feeling the need to compare my journey to someone else's. Back in 2022, I ended up quitting my job because it was just emotionally and mentally draining. And when I quit my job, there was a lot of people having their own YouTube channels of quitting their job and being successful at it. And then when I quit my job and then tried to figure out like where I wanted to go, I constantly felt like I was failing at everything because no matter what I was trying, it just didn't seem to work. So what I started to realize when I went into 2023 was the more I kept focusing on negative, the more I kept only seeing negative. What I started to do instead was just see more things as my own learning lessons and my own journey. And when I did that, I started to really start to pay attention to the fact that I can't compare my journey to someone else's because I don't know what someone else has gone through. Just because I'm seeing the outcome work out well for them, I have no idea what their journey was before. And I think constantly we compare ourselves to what we see is working for someone else, but we don't see what didn't work for them. And so what I started to enjoy was watching those types of channels where they end up like saying that they tried all these different things before they figured out what worked for them. And then also taking a step back and then just focusing on what works for me. So one change that I really created in 2023 was no longer comparing my journey to someone else because I don't know what someone else knows. I don't know what their life is like. I don't know what struggles they have to go through. And I constantly think that we feel like because someone is showing us this perfect picture, we think that everything just worked out smoothly for them. And that's never really the case. Usually they had their own hurdles, they had their own ups and downs, they had their own journey and their own mindset and emotions that they had to work through. So one thing that I just realized is that no 2 journeys are going to be similar. People could give you advice and I could give you what worked for me, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everything that I say is going to work for you because it depends on your own emotions, your own mindset, your own things that you have going on. But it's taking the tools that you could take at the time based off the information that you're learning from the person you're learning it from and see how you could implement that in your life. And that's one thing that has really helped me transform the way I think about things instead of feeling like, oh, I'm behind. Oh, I should be doing this. Oh, I should be having that. And when I don't have it, I feel like crap about myself and not realizing the more I keep focusing on the things that I don't have, it gives me less time to focus on the things that I want to do in order to get the things that I want to have. So when I changed that mindset of no longer comparing my journey to someone else and seeing things more as an inspiration of what I would want in my future or what I see someone else have and what I would like to implement in my own life, it gives me more of a relaxation of knowing that, okay, like you may not have that, but your life is pretty damn like good where you're at. Like you're able to pay your bills, you're able to create the schedule that you want, you're able to have the health that you want of eating the foods that you would like. And is it perfect? No. Do you still have things you want to work on? Yes. But is it manageable? Yes. So one thing that I ended up realizing is no longer comparing my journey to someone else because I don't have the same walk of life as someone else. We may share similar types of journeys, but at the end of the day, we're all walking our own individual journey. And it's for us to realize what works for us, what doesn't work for us, and how we could make sure we align more to the things that we want rather than focusing on what we don't have and what we see someone else having. The next thing that I'm continuing in 2024 is only focusing on the things that I want, as well as watching the things that I say. One thing that I did a lot in 2022 was I wasn't paying attention to how my words were impacting my day-to-day. So one thing that I was focusing on a lot was a lot of negativity, a lot of the things that I didn't have. I constantly focused on the things that I didn't want to happen. And anytime I kept focusing on the things that I didn't want to happen, happen. It ended up happening. For instance, when I decided that I was going to start applying for jobs again, one thing that I kept saying throughout the entire time that I wasn't working was I didn't want to go broke. And towards the time that I did end up going back to work, but per diem, I ended up being on the cusp of running out of my savings. So one thing that I started to do in 2023 was pay attention to the words that I was saying. So instead of saying I don't want to run out of money, I started to say that I want to increase my savings. I want to increase my income. As when we focus on the things that we don't want, even though you're telling yourself you don't want something, the universe doesn't put into account the fact that you said don't. It still is going to attract that to you because that is what you're focusing on. And one way that I learned to explain this to myself was the idea of that if I say I don't want something, I'm still focusing on the thing that I don't want rather than the thing that I do want. So therefore, I'm not focusing on how to get the thing that I do want because I'm totally focusing this way on the things that I don't want. So anytime when I say something like, oh, I don't have this, I'm broke, or I'm running out of savings, instead of saying that, I started to catch myself a lot in 2023 with the words that I was saying and be mindful of what was coming out of my mouth. And if it came to something like finances, instead of saying I can't afford that, I either say that it is out of my price range right now or I can't afford that yet, just because it helps me see that it is something that is attainable for me to have in the future. I just need to work on the income that I want to have in order for me to get it. So one thing that I'm bringing into 2024 as well is really paying attention to the words that I'm saying and really paying attention to what I want to attract into my life. So if you're someone who constantly tends to focus on the negative things or focus on what you don't want, instead of focusing on the things that you don't want, focus on the things that you do want and the things that you want to attract into your life. Because the thing is when you're focusing on what you want to attract more into your life, the universe will literally align that to you. Like, it's really interesting when it happens because it never happens really in the way that you anticipate it and never really happens in the time frame that you anticipate it, but it does tend to happen. So one thing to do is really be mindful of the words that you're saying and the words that you're putting out into the universe, because that is something that will attract back to you, whether in a positive or a negative. And the last thing that I'm bringing into 2024 is valuing time over money. One thing that I really started to learn when it came to just learning about personal development and entrepreneurship is how much valuable time actually is. And so when I learned about entrepreneurship and then decided to leave in 2022 and then realizing that that's not a method that works for me and then going back to work, one thing that I was dedicated on was when I applied to jobs was only applying for jobs over a certain amount and only applying to part-time jobs. And then several months later, I ended up getting not only the type of job that I would be interested in, I ended up getting double the income that I wanted. And instead of going part-time, I was able to create my own schedule. So when I started working at my per diem job, one thing that people kept asking me was, why don't I add on more days? And I remember for a short time, especially in the beginning, I ended up deciding to add on 4 days to work because I felt like pressure to do so, and I felt like people were looking at me like I was lazy. And when I did the 4 days, I was absolutely miserable. And what I realized was like, I want my 3 days. I'm going to stick to my 3 days. If I need 4 days, I'm going to do it. But I could pay all my bills and I could pay everything that I need to with the 3 days and have the other remaining days to work on what I want to do for myself and for my future. And one thing that I realized is being able to see time as more valuable than money, because there's endless amounts of money. And I think when you have your basic needs met and you're able to pay all your bills and you're able to make sure you have a roof over your head and live in a safe community, there wasn't really anything else that I needed to make more money within the short span that I can't make in the long run off of trying to create my own income and trying to create my own business. So one thing that I started to do was be mindful of when I do work my 3 days of how I spend my money, what I spend my money on. So that way I'm making sure I still live within my means, so that way I could have that time back to myself of creating the things that I want to create. So one thing to do if you're also someone who really wants to just like start to weed your way out of the 9 to 5 is see what kind of method works for you and see how much you need in order to sustain your living in order to create the life that you want to have. Because for me personally, like, I want to create an actual life. Just waking up every day just to make a good amount of money in the short term, but not really able to have the life that I want and be able to fully be able to do the things that I want in the future. To me, that's not a win-win. So one thing to do is really spend time with yourself of what type of life you want to have and what does that look like and what that means for you in the present of what you have to maybe give up now or compromise now in order for you to get what you want in the end. So those are the 3 things that I've learned from 2023 that I'm bringing into 2024 based off of the mistakes that I did in 2022. And I hope this video provides some type of inspiration of making sure you are doing things that are aligned with the life you want to live. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe if you are not already subscribed. If you already made it to the end of this video, you might as well hit that subscribe button. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Happy 2024, and I will see you guys in the next video. I want to give a huge shout out and a huge thank you to all of those who subscribed to my channel in 2023. Honestly, I'm not someone who is comfortable talking to a camera, but it's something where I want to challenge myself to do it and share my perspective on different topics and share the things that I've learned. And I want to do that in a way that hopefully inspires you of how to align with the life that you want, the health that you want. And so welcome to 2024.